Go for Side Effects is sponsored by Wild Branch Products. Wild Branch is a truly pure cannabis oil. They make CBD containing 0.00% THC and no carrier oils. Use Wild Branch oils and salves to calm, cool, and soothe your body, leaving you pain-free. I can tell you, using this product, I was able to go to Santa's Wonderland with my family. I put on a salve, I used the oils, I was able to walk for hours. I believe in this product 100%. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Use promo code GWI podcast for 15% off. Click the link below. Thank you. All right, Jason, welcome to Go For Side Effects. Thank you for coming back on the air. I would like for you to talk to me about the second part of your VA encounters and stuff that you're going through.
Okay, and I think we left off where I was talking about the sore in my mouth to my PCP and found out he was a Gulf War vet as well and all that. Is that right about where we left off?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I just to kind of recap a little bit, to go back a little bit, to give everybody context, especially people that might be listening new. I've been told by my neuropsychologist and my PCP and psychologists and everybody else that I'm part of this new pilot for the VA. Or I don't know if it's for the VA or just within the VA. They, I don't want to be specific in my terminology. But how this happened basically is my neuropsychologist, has really been one of those care providers that really cares about what's going on with me specifically. And, he was the person that, was at the pain clinic. That's how I got introduced to him through the VA. And, I did the mindfulness meditation with him. He ran that. And so we just, in all those meetings, he kind of, saw me on camera during the mindfulness meditation and because I look like I'm suffering. You can see the pain in my eyes, the exhaustion in my eyes. And I just, you can really tell that, something's wrong with me. And I guess he is very empathetic to, what I've been through for 30 years of basically having the VA deny and flat out lie, and just make up stuff, any sort of condition I have, even to this day, is still, it's got to be this or got to be that. Go back to the mouth. Let's just focus on the one mouth thing. And I'm sure everybody gets this same treatment. I see it in the forums all the time. This sore in my mouth is some sort of abscess, they say, so it's a dental issue. It has nothing to do with the inflammation of my, all the granuloma and inflammation throughout my body because of these toxins. And so, they're just saying, go to the dentist. Right. And I'm like, no, you guys, this is all part of the same, I have the same kind of sores breaking out down, on, where my belly meets my groin area, my belt area. And it's a completely different type of skin, but it's the same kind of sores that have developed there. And I think the sores are developing everywhere because of my intermittent oxygen. And, I'm not sure exactly what it is. There's just so many things that it could be. And that's kind of the problem with a lot of us too, is that, we have so many things going on with us that, one thing that I found, you know, that is a major thing with all of us is that, and I just found this, kind of realized this recently. I kind of knew it, but I just was told specifically by my psychologist that these VA docs do not have the time for us. Like my particular doc, who's a Gulf War vet too, and is sick himself, who denied he was sick to me, but told my neuropsychologist he was sick. That's how I know. Which is all that's really weird, because um, that seems like a HIPAA violation or something. That's really weird, but the main thing is we have all these things going wrong with us, and the VA system just isn't built at all to handle that. The caseloads of these doctors are so great that they don't know what's in our charts. And my record is really long, even though that's only really happened in the past few years, because in the 90s it was lost, and then I went away from the VA for a while and then came back to the VA just a few years ago when things really started getting bad. But yeah, we just have all these problems with all our systems, and the VA just is not set up for it. And so that one of the things that they do with all of us, to help with that problem, is they just shoo us away. They say, "Oh, that problem in your mouth is a dental issue. It's nothing to do with the toxins or the inflammation going on throughout your whole body. It's a dental issue, so go away." And so that's what they'll do with all of us, with all of our symptoms that we have from these issues. And so, that's just been a circle just going around and around and around with me in the VA, where they push me away and they say, "Oh, your obesity is because your eating habits." No, it's not because of my eating habits, right? I've learned how to eat better. I don't have high cholesterol. I used to have it. And I had high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and all that in my 20s, going from being super healthy and active to all of a sudden being, high blood pressure and developing high cholesterol and all that. And I didn't eat terribly, but I eat a lot better now. And so they just blame all this stuff. And so I got sick of it. And so my neuropsychologist, in some of these discussions that we had about a lot of this, took it upon himself to, start contacting various people, the regional director of VA Health, and just all these different people he started contacting. And I guess what they came up with is this quote unquote pilot that they've assembled a team of VA people, which kind of interestingly enough, the neuropsychologist that has been involved with me and has kind of been my psychiatrist and therapist and all that, he's been told that he's being ejected from that role, basically. So he transitioned me to this new pilot team. So I'm losing this advocate, right? And I'm going into this team of people that has been assembled, which includes the director of the Palo Alto Risk, Dr. Ashford, who I've also had a consultation, which I didn't get that through the VA or this team. I did that through, Denise Nichols
Right.
made that happen, actually. And so I've already talked to him, and because I talked to him, my neuropsychologist found out about him, and my neuropsychologist reached out to him. And I don't know much of the behind the scenes stuff, but and that's some of the conversations my neuropsychologist was having with these care providers to figure out, and meanwhile, figure out what's wrong with the VA and helping us, and meanwhile trying to find a path forward. And so I have Dr. Ashford, and he's just an advisory role. And I have a new primary care who is a Gulf War vet, and that happened by circumstance. It wasn't that he was picked. And then I have a psychologist who's on that same PCP team in the same facility. And then I have another doctor who I'm not going to name just quite yet, because I haven't even talked to him. And I just don't want to mess anything up if anybody's listening and knows him or whatever. But I'm about to talk to him, and he's supposed to be the quote unquote Gulf War specialist of the VA.
Oh, wow.
And so, or, at least one of them, not the, I kind of misspoke there,
Right.
I guess.
One of them, and which is good though. At least that's some
Yes.
progress.
Yes, I'm having some hope that, because Dr. Ashford, is more along those lines as well, not maybe specifically with Gulf War illness, but all war illnesses, right? And my meeting with him that Denise arranged, which was, first a private conversation, and then he said, I want to see you through the VA, and he made an actual appointment and put stuff in my record and stuff.
Well, I have a couple questions for you. When you were talking
Yes.
about, the problems you're having with your skin. So
Yes.
on my back, I don't know if anybody else, in which I want to say hi to Wade and I want to say hi to Amelia. Welcome for your first time showing up, Amelia. Now, on y'all's back, are y'all finding? I see guys that are having different kind of rashes all over their body, but there's a few of us I'm finding that down my spinal cord, it looks like I got 4 bruises going down it. Do you have anything like that?
I have some, not bruises, but some splotching. It's almost like freckles, but they're not freckles, because I do have a lot of those, like freckles and moles and stuff. But I have this weird pattern of dark frecklish like skin that appeared on my back and also on my left leg, from the mid shin all the way down. My whole foot and ankle just completely freckled up. And what I've heard it is, or what I've found on my own, is what it is the capillaries rupture, and then they release like copper, magnesium into the skin, and that's what causes the discoloration. I don't know if that's what it is, but it seems like it's what makes the most sense. And with the VA, when that happened, it happened after I went to Disneyland. Actually, I took my son to Disneyland for his first time, and right before COVID, and or his couple years before COVID, but it was before COVID. And right after that trip, my left leg swole up, and it did this discoloration thing. It almost looks like I have a sock. It's a definitive line, and about mid shin, and from that point down, I have this discoloration in my skin that appeared, and they called it capillaritis at first, and then that led to, well, it's early PAD. And then I was like, no, that doesn't make sense from what was happening, because my foot was hurting and swelling up too. And if I elevated it, it seemed to be better. And that was more along the lines of PVD, which is pulmonary vein disease, where the blood isn't getting back up, basically. And so that made more sense. So I made them and that's the thing too. I go into the VA, I don't have doctors that help me and say, oh, you have all these toxic exposures, you have this and this wrong with you, this is what we need to do, or these are the tests that we need to do. I go into the VA and they go, how can we help you? And I'm just like, I would like you to help me by being professional doctors and care for me.
Right. Exactly.
Why do I have to be the doctor, right? But I do have to be the doctor, and I've always had to be the doctor. And so that's been my relationship with the VA. And so I forced them to do more tests. And so they did a venous study on me, and so the capillaritis turned into, and the capillaritis was just treat it with compression socks and exercise and lose weight. That was the thing.
Okay, but here's my question: Do you have neuropathy?
I'm developing it, I think, but it's not diagnosed in the VAs, and even they don't go deeper into stuff.
Right.
And that's kind of what this particular example is an example of. It's just one of the systems, right? My circulatory system, that they're not looking deep enough, and they still aren't, and so that PAD, capillaritis, turned into early onset PAD, pulmonary artery disease. And then it or peripheral, I mean, and then it turned to like maybe it's PVD, and then we had that tested, and then when they had that tested, they said, "Oh, you have venous insufficiency." And I said, "Venous insufficiency? What's that?" Well, the blood isn't getting around, all that. And so I look at all that, and I find that kind of disease is usually from usually women get it, and are the most susceptible, and it's usually people who stand a lot and develop varicose veins and all that, and that's what causes the pulmonary or the venous insufficiency, is that the veins are getting all twisted and stuff, and so it's really hard for the blood to make it back. And so go ahead.
I just want to clarify. Amelia has said a couple of things that I think almost every single one of us, I guess I never thought about what is like Gulf War syndromes. A lot of people think it could be from the anthrax shot, P-tabs. I think it's a mixture of it all. The oil well fires, the anthrax, the P-tabs. I mean, everything.
Well, and quite honestly, this is kind of a sidetrack from where I'm going, and that's fine. I'll get back to it. Just remind me
yes,
where we're at, because I might forget. Actually, it happens all the time. But I have a cousin who has long COVID, and like bad long COVID, not mild long COVID.
Right.
She's debilitated, and so I've been talking to her she's had it for about a year now, or a little over a year. And I've noticed, even in the very beginning, one thing I noticed is that long COVID seems a lot like Gulf War illness.
It does. It does.
There's exhaustion, there's heart problems, there's, kidney problems, and so you have to realize what's happening here with COVID, and that this is how I understood it. Is I understood early on that when you get COVID, the immune system sometimes ramps up so much with it. They have these cytokine storms, if you don't know what those are, and then the cytokine storms attack your own tissue, and usually it ends up attacking an organ. So the people that end up dying from COVID, usually the majority of people that end up dying, is because it attacks their lungs, and then their lungs start, creating all this fluid from the damage, and they basically drown, and that's,
it's crazy.
That's a cytokine storm in the lungs. And I have granuloma in my lungs, and I've seen COVID lung granuloma, and it's way worse than mine, and it's hard for me to breathe, and I'm just thinking, holy crap, like, that must be really bad for somebody who has a cytokine storm with COVID, and they're gonna feel a lot like me, I think, and I felt that early on, just right off the bat. But then my cousin gets long COVID, and she's just sharing on, she's a teacher, and she loves teaching, and she can't teach anymore because she's just sick all the time, and she can't work. Nobody will keep her employed, when she's sick all the time. But she started sharing all her issues on Facebook. I'm like, holy crap, this sounds so much of what I've gone through, And so I've been talking to her more and more about it. Well, she just posted a story today, and I couldn't believe it. It's on CBS News, and it says that one of the reasons for the workforce shortage in the U.S. is millions of people have long COVID, and they're finding out that, and it's bad. Millions of people have bad long COVID, like my cousin, and they're finding out that they can't work, and they're having all these problems, and it's getting worse, and they're having heart issues and all this. And that's one thing, I have tachycardia. So I think what's happened. Oh, and just kind of to wrap back around with that, to kind of connect all this. So that venous insufficiency, I'm going like varicose veins and all that. And yeah, I do have some weight, but all my weight is around my belly.
Yeah.
Like my legs are very fit, actually. And the part of my leg that was swelling down by my ankle and stuff, that's the fittest part of my body, because it's been hauling around this belly for 10 years, And so, so I was just questioning all that. I'm just like, venous insufficiency, this just doesn't even make sense. And then I'm finding out about this in all the research, the ACHE chemical. Do you know about that? So it's a chemical that is in the body that the brain sends through the body, that basically controls all the automatic things in your body. For instance, it controls your digestive system. We all have digestive system issues. It controls the muscles in your veins to push the blood around. I have venous insufficiency issues, and so I'm just like questioning all this stuff, and I'm finding out about this ACHE chemical and all the research, and they're finding out too that a lot of the people, a lot of our exposures are organophosphate based. And, the pesticides, the PB pills, the sarin, all that stuff is organophosphate based. And the Dr. Ashford from the Risk diagnosed me with dysautonomia, which is actually a brainstem issue of not controlling all your automatic systems in your body very well, which is kind of what's happening. It seems like it's all coming off the rails.
Right.
And it's getting worse and worse and worse. The blood stuff, my high blood pressure and all that is now gone into this venous insufficiency. And then when I question that even more, I question the venous insufficiency even more. And I went back into the blood specialist. Who are they? Vascular. I went back into the vascular specialist, and I'm just like, this just doesn't make sense to me. Like, do I have varicose veins? Like, what's causing this venous insufficiency? Because Denise Nichols was also talking about hypercoagulation. And so if your blood's thick, it's not going to move around very well. So I was thinking, okay, well, maybe that's why my blood isn't moving around very well, is because it's thick. And so I went back to the vascular specialist about this, and the vascular specialist was a trainee, which pretty much all our providers are, most of them are trainees. And then they have like a main, doctor that isn't a trainee that oversees them all, which is the person he got. And he got that person, and she looked at all my stuff, and she reversed my diagnosis. She says, you don't have venous insufficiency. You have medically unexplained venous insufficiency. So they don't know why. And I have tachycardia. My heart races to like 130, 180 beats a minute while I'm laying down in bed doing nothing, which is a weird feeling. It sucks, but
how is your platelet count? Is it high?
See, and that's the thing. They don't really do the blood tests right. And that's what's happened too, is over the years, I didn't really have a lot of blood problems besides the higher blood sugar. And I did have high cholesterol until I started eating better about a decade ago. I finally, because of Denise talking about the hypercoagulation, I was talking to my primary care about that was actually helping me out at the time before she retired. And she helped me out quite a bit in a lot of the things that went well for me with the VA and getting stuff into my record and helping, I think that really helped actually get me some sort of rating out the gate instead of a big 0 like a lot of people get, I would be homeless if I got the big 0.
Right.
And I'm teetering on homeless with the partial that I got, and I have an appeal in, and it's been, I filed in 2018. Here it's 2022.
Right.
And there's so many of us like that too,
Exactly. And that's a lot of, that to me is like a lot of the problem.
It is.
It is, because there's so many people out there that are filing, and I mean, I guess they think at one point they thought we were all, making this stuff up, because I had a digestive disorder back in the 90s while I was in during Desert Storm. I was diagnosed with it until this day.
Wow.
But I'm connected with IBS. I'm not connected with chronic fatigue. I'm connected with neuropathy from my head all the way down to my feet. And like I was telling you earlier, I started getting tremors. And so I do have an exam, a C&P exam, on Valentine's Day. But I cut hair for a living. Without my hands and without my head and shaking, everybody's starting to notice, like, this is getting out of control.
Yeah.
And so they give me medicine, but this is where I guess I have the problem with the medicines that they give us. They don't know what type of tremor I have. I thought they said essential tremors, but now it's head tremors, arm tremors, hand tremors. And I'm like, so they give you this one medicine, but go look at anything. There's all different types of medicines for each different one. And I don't get that.
Yeah, and that is another big problem, is that we are way over medicated, and a lot of these medications cause problems, cause further issues. And I've heard just some horror stories, and I've been of the mindset, and they actually try and hold this against me, is I've been of the mindset I'm not taking stuff unless we know it works.
Right.
And, and they gave me naproxen and stuff to help with the pain, the nerve pain and stuff like that. But some of these drugs are so dangerous, and I'm having problems processing things in my liver. Like if I drink anything, I don't get buzzed. I could drink a whole fifth of alcohol and not even be buzzed.
Oh, wow.
And it's not because I'm an alcoholic. And I did drink in the past, but, and the reason why I know some of this stuff too is because of experience. Like, I started drinking a lot more and more, and I was getting more, immune to it, resistance to it. And I thought it was because I just was drinking, in my 20s, you know what I mean?
Right.
And partying and stuff, going to college, doing all that stuff that young kids do. That's what I thought it was. But then I quit drinking, and I don't do it, but I started doing CBD for pain, and then that started not being as effective. And people were saying, well, if you do a 1-to-1 ratio, like THC and CBD, then it's more effective. And so I started doing that. And, I'm not even feeling high at all.
Wow.
And I know what that's like, because I've tried that too in those party years when I was drinking, when I was young. I did marijuana here and there, and so I know what it's like. And my wife, we even tested it just to make sure. I tried some edibles, to see, because edibles typically give you a body relaxation, relax, almost like a muscle relaxant, versus, vaping it or smoking it or whatever, is more of a head high. So I tried consuming it, with food, the little gummies or whatever. And I thought, well, maybe these are fake, they're not real. And I bought them at, it's legal here, so you can buy them, anywhere. And so I'm like, maybe these aren't real. And my wife tried it, and like 5 grams, she's loopy, 10 grams like sends her into a coma almost. And I can eat 100 or 200. I don't feel anything.
Wow.
And so something weird is going on with my liver too. And additionally, and get this kicker too, talking about this venous insufficiency. So it started off, my legs swelling after Disneyland, walking around like crazy, right? And this is the other thing that just really gets me about the VA, is, I am overweight, yes, but I've been very active, even up till about 5 years ago or 3 years ago or so. Yeah, 3 years. I was very active. I started selling solar because I couldn't do technology anymore, because my cognitive issues are getting worse and worse. And so I was walking around in neighborhoods, knocking on doors, in the heat, in the cold, whatever, walking upstairs, downstairs, lots of stamina, lots of endurance. My legs are very muscular, can walk around all day, not an issue. And the VA treats me like I've gone more into this neuropathy type thing where it's hard for me to walk. Like I get up and my legs feel heavy. Just all these different things are happening. Like I'm just exhausted, right? But it's a different kind of exhausted. And it's not that I'm out deconditioned or out of shape. I mean, I am overweight, but I've been overweight all this time. And a lot of us, it's a lipid and hormone type issue with us. We have too much cortisol, which is why we have the belly fat. There's a whole bunch of science behind a lot of this that they know about that they don't tell us. And I found out all those things, and I learned how to manage my weight. And I'm losing weight right now, even though I'm less and less active, because I've learned things, and I've learned how to practice things, and I've learned how to overcome things that are really hard. And that's one of the things that I'm doing right now to prove to the VA that, they think it's all because of my weight. They blame everything that's going on with me with my weight instead of what actually happened, the toxic exposures and that's the thing. And a lot of people don't know this, and I'm kind of bouncing around a lot of subjects here, but hopefully people are getting good information. But the damage of any toxin in our system, whatever the toxin is, has its own specific damage depending on the toxin. And a lot of us were exposed to a variety of different toxins, not just one of them. So we all have different issues that develop because we have different types of exposures that we were exposed
Right.
to. Like a lot of us in the Gulf were breathing in the fumes of the oil, day in and day out. And there's chromium and hexavalent and all these heavy metals and dioxin, which really affects your circulatory and heart, which is why a lot of us have heart problems. So we had all those exposures, and people on the land, you had exposures to the oil too, but it was more like, all over your skin
Right.
there were some breathing type exposures, burn pit type things as well. And the oil well fires affected all of us, probably more on the land because you were closer to them. But that's the thing, is we all have these different variety of different exposures. We have the different types of exposures. We have the different combinations of exposures. We have the different durations and repeated exposures, like day in and day out, or maybe just once, we all have different genetics that help our body combat those things that happen to us. And, also that are different weaknesses for things that are going to be more severe to us than our neighbor. So with the combination of all these things, every time I hear biomarker, I just want to puke,
Right.
because And every time I hear, oh, just this cancer or just this symptom or just this disease, just IBS or whatever, or just Parkinson's or just ALS or whatever it is, is covered. I just call BS on all that, because what happens is we get that exposure in our body. Our immune system sees it. It says, what the hell is going on here? And then we could have a cytokine storm, just like you can with COVID. We can have for instance, let's take the granuloma in my lungs. Let's take a realistic mechanism here. The granuloma in my lungs, which is all sub 4 millimeter, I think, is sand that was contaminated with sarin. Jim Brown talked all about this, has all the documentation. When Camisaya blew up, they only talked about stuff that went in the air plume and people that were, exposed to in the air. But what happened is all that sarin fell down onto the sand. And when it falls into the sand, it combines with the sand. And when it combines with the sand, instead of having like a 30-minute or hour life, it has like a 3-week or more life. And then the wind blows that sand all over the arena, causing all the chemical alarms to go off, including on my ship. And I was outside when that happened, and the chemical alarms going off. I'm going, holy shit. And I'm
Right.
throwing on all my stuff. And it's hot, and I don't want to be throwing on my stuff, but I hear that chemical alarm. I'm going, you better throw on all this stuff. So I'm throwing it all on. Within a minute, I hear over the loudspeaker, it was a false alarm, all clear, you can take all your stuff off. Like a stupid idiot.
I would love to know the dates that everybody's alarms went off on all different ships.
Yeah, they were all going off at generally the same time.
That's right.
And that's the thing too, is and so the protocol with an alarm going off is the sensor, like a chemical biological person, goes to the sensor and scrapes the sensor, because usually the chemical weapons leave some sort of residue. But when the sarin combines with the sand, it doesn't leave a residue. It blows across the sensor and goes on its merry way.
Right.
So they go and scrape the sensors, and so they get the log, oh, chemical alarm detected, sarin, whatever, and they do know what, depending on the alarm, they probably know what the chemical was that was detected. And then they send out, they do the protocol, and they scrape it. There's nothing there. And they go, oh, okay, well, we didn't find anything, so we can just call this false. Yeah. And I think that's what happened. And so I breathed in this stuff, and the sand is all 3 millimeter there, and all my granuloma in my lungs are sub 4 millimeter. And so I breathe in this sand, fine sand that has sarin in it, and I have the PB pills to protect me as a prophylactic. And I breathe it all in, and my body's going, what in the hell is this? And so I might have had a cytokine storm that attacked my heart and my lungs. I don't know, but I had, immediate, and gastro, but I had immediate heart, lung, and valve problems ever since. Just like you said, I had it early on, way in the beginning. And I was seeing the VA from 92 to 99 or so before I finally gave up and was just fully in private care.
That's what I did.
But they lost all my records. They're all missing. So.
Yeah, I have mine. I made copies of everything whenever I got out.
I was dumb. I didn't. I was dumb about that. I just figured with the whole time where they just kept saying, like they did a pulmonary function test right away in like 92 or 93 or whatever, and they found a impairment, and they said, oh, do you smoke? And I'm like, yes, at the time I did. And I'd been smoking for a couple years, during the military, pretty much, a little bit before, just like 4 years tops or whatever. And they blame my pulmonary impairment on that. Right. Oh, you've been smoking for 4 years? That's why your lungs are only like 70% capacity.
Well, see, what I find funny is, like, I'm finding a few more Gulf War vets that I've been talking to, and I'm finding out, like, because on my liver it says I have a whole bunch of cysts on there. And I'm like, cyst on
They
my
call them cysts. Mine's
cyst.
a wedge-shaped lesion, and other,
Yeah.
lesions, and fatty liver is what they say with mine.
Well, I asked them, I said, is it dangerous? They're like, oh, no, it's common. And I'm like, that doesn't sound common to me. And then I have a cyst on my kidney. And then they're just like, oh, yeah. And then the kidney doctor said that I have, what is that? Kidney disorder. I forgot what it was called. But if you listen to it, it sounded like I was going to die in the next week. And
Oh, geez.
like kidney failure. And
Renal failure,
yeah,
is that what
renal
they call
failure.
it?
That's it. Kidney renal failure.
Is your urine, does it go dark brown or foamy or both?
Yeah, it does sometimes, and then it goes back. But then they sat there and told me that no, it's fine. We see nothing in your blood. Everything's fine. I'm just like,
But you have brownish urine and it's foamy at
sometimes,
times?
sometimes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Me too. It's weird. But see, so this is what happens is we get this contamination, whatever it is. It could be COVID, it could be sarin, PB pills, whatever it is. And our body, has a damage from that, right? There's some sort of impact from just that happening. And then the immune system responds and tries to eject it from the body. Well, let's take my lungs, for example. I breathe in that sand. It goes deep into my lungs. It's all throughout the base of my lungs. I have these sub 4 millimeter granuloma. And so my body's like, this isn't right. That shouldn't be there. And it let's just say it launched a cytokine storm on my lungs and or my heart.
yeah,
And so I have these issues, and it can't get rid of it. It cannot get rid of this stuff. It's still in there. It can't expel it. So the granuloma, what the granuloma is it's a scar tissue, and so my body created scar tissue around these sand grains, and that's how it fixed the problem. But every once in a while my body may detect it again, right? I mean, who knows? Or maybe it has some sort of half-life or something, I don't know. But that's the kind of stuff that happens. And so when we get that exposure, we can have cytokine storms just like COVID that creates long COVID. We can have the damage from the actual toxin itself as well, whatever repercussions are from that. And it just cascades. And so one thing about the immune system that they don't teach people that I've learned is the immune system is a very adaptive thing, just like your brain. And so the immune system learns. And so when it gets these exposures, it's actually altered our immune systems, right, into a thing that isn't normal, and so that's, and then what happens is from that point, is any new further exposures that you have post deployment or post this initial contamination, your immune system and your brain are reacting to that, like, and sometimes it's emergency mode. That's why a lot of us, smell diesel, for instance, like, and I think mine isn't from PB pills or anything like that along those lines. It's more along the lines of smelling that petroleum or refueling helicopters, and smelling that JP5,
oh yeah,
that caused damage to my body. And so every time I smell gas or diesel or anything like that, I feel physically ill. That's my brain and my immune system going, get as far away from this where you're at as possible. It's a survival mechanism. So we have all these things happen to us. And then also, in addition to, the cytokine storms and all that, we have to live with that long-term damage, right? And that long-term damage can devolve into a disease. Because what you're basically, just take an example. We're a machine, right? If you shoot a bullet at a machine and injure some part of that machine, it's less capable than it was before. And eventually you're going to start hitting vital components of the machine that take it out, or take out this function of it, or, and it's the same thing with us. And and I don't know, the VA thinks we're stupid. Everybody thinks we're stupid, and we all aren't educated enough to realize all this stuff. And we just go with what we're told. And that's what I've been doing, is I've been just trying to fight this thing. And they even put me on this, bad vet list board. I told you a little bit about that. I think you're
Yeah.
surprised that they even have that. And they took no action on me because, while I did, I guess violate the code of VA clinician and patient rules or whatever, what I was violating is in defense of my life and my health.
Right.
Like, I'm freaking out. And a lot of those things, when I did the few times that I did lash out, was because of extreme stress and not getting help from the VA. Like, they're literally ignoring me. Like, you're supposed to answer messages in My Healthy Vet, which I like to keep everything in, to keep that paper record. Because anything verbal said isn't going to help you at all.
Right. Right. But
and it never has helped me. And so I made it a point to do that, to try and do as much business regarding my health in the VA through My Healthy Vet as possible. They were just not even answering me, and they're supposed to answer in 3 business days.
within 3 business days. But here's the thing: it isn't. They know it's not just us. They know because Europe is having the same problems. France, anybody who served during the Gulf, we all have the same stuff. I mean,
Yep.
I brought the guy on that was from England. He has the exact same stuff that we have. And what amazes me is we have better care than what they do.
Yeah, that's really, I think in the UK, they took care of him right away, really quick for a little while, but then they just ditched him.
Yeah, he said he
and
never
denied it all.
He said he never got the care, man. And then he was just like they ain't even really even allowed to talk about it. That's the crazy thing. It's like,
yeah,
that's why I'm glad we have our freedom.
It's uncomfortable, and it creates all these conflicts, and a lot of the VA business is these conflicts, and that's because what happens is they're, and I really think that their primary goal at the VA isn't to care for us at all. It's to reduce the amount of money spent on us. And that is like the primary mission. So they'll do any trick in the book that they can, push appointments out and all that kind of stuff just to keep us away, and that's how they've been treating me the whole time. That's how I see everybody else being treated. My granuloma in my lungs, they don't look into that at all. They've just done the pulmonary function test. That's it. They tried to blame it on valley fever because I lived in Utah as a kid. Even though it wasn't anywhere near where I was, and my entry exam didn't show any granuloma. So why would that be it? Plus the valley fever granuloma is bigger, and mine's sub 4 millimeter. So, there're just so many, and that's the thing too, is, they say we have these presumptives, and it's by law that they're supposed to acknowledge that. And by law, they're also supposed to side with us. But the granuloma in my lungs, suddenly became valley fever that I got when I was a kid from my CMP examiner. That's what she came up with.
What?
And that I mean, there's actually even a test that you can test to see if you've had valley fever, and they didn't even give me that test to see if that was accurate. And so that scenario is supposed to be, well, I'm saying it's from the Gulf. I'm saying it's from the oil, from the sandstorms that I breathed in, and maybe even from Mount Pt.2 that I went to after the Gulf. It could be from that too. And it could be any one of those things. And that's when I started having breathing problems, and, I didn't have breathing problems before then. I was perfectly healthy. And, and they're saying, well, it's valley fever, because you lived in Utah. And so that's called a tie break, right? Or it's a tie. And even in the event of a tie break, they're supposed to side with the vet.
Right, exactly. If it's 50%.
And they don't. So they're
No.
breaking the law. They're totally breaking the law right there. And so, and that's what happens with all my symptoms. It's just like, oh, your mouth sore. No, it's an abscess. You've had this for 5 months, right? And as far as what I understand, abscesses, you're not going to have one for 5 months because you're going to be so in pain by like the first month that you're getting in and getting it taken care of, right? Yeah, everything gets blamed and scapegoated on all this other stuff, and there's no proof of it. Yet we do have the proof that so many of us have these same issues, and a lot of us have different issues because, my venous insufficiency and everybody else's that probably has the same thing from the dioxins and petroleum exposures that we had. Those of us that have that, I lost my train of thought.
Well, so did I. The neurological
Oh,
problem.
no, I know what I was
All
trying
right,
to get.
go ahead.
Is even though we all have these exposure, we all have generally the same things. It does develop into different stuff. Because like the venous insufficiency, for instance, it may develop into me losing my leg because my blood flow in my left leg isn't good.
Right.
And somebody else might lose their right leg, or somebody might have, one of us might have organ failure because the blood isn't getting to the organ properly, right? So all these different things can happen based off these damages that are done, and so and that's the most nefarious thing and most evil, vile thing that I can think of with this whole Desert Storm syndrome stuff, or Gulf War syndrome. Was, I believe, concocted at the very beginning to make it seem, it's just one of those words that make it negative, and to blame it and put it all in our heads. But if you look at what syndrome means, it means everybody has the same exact thing. Well, with Gulf War illness, it isn't that. We do share a lot of the same things because the body gets damaged in similar ways, but it can lead to other things like for instance, your tremor. Some people develop full-on Parkinson's.
Right.
And me and you just have, little bit of Parkinson's, right? But I also feel like I also have a little bit of MS too. And I also feel I have a little bit of dementia too. And so it's all similar systems that are being damaged and impaired in our body, but it happens in various ways.
Well, I think brain fog. A lot of the Desert Storm vets I'm finding have brain fog.
Yes.
I mean, heck, I have it when I drive. I mean, I'll be like, how in the hell did I get this far? And then I'm like, but there's days that I feel like my head is just real foggy.
Yeah. And brain fog actually is kind of another one of those things that is just kind of, well, what is that? What is brain fog? And I've been told specifically, and I don't know, I just had a really good neuropsychiatrist or psychologist, I'm not sure which one, but basically, so the mechanism I have, I don't know if this is what it is for everybody, but what I've been told, the mechanism I have specifically, and it fits perfectly. Like once I was told this, it explained everything that's been happening to me for 25 years when I was finally told this after 25 years, is that basically what happens is there's that some sort of damage in the brain. So you experience an event like I'm talking right now, right? And I may or may not remember this in 5 minutes. And so what happens is it's not a memory problem or forgetting problem or anything like that. It's your brain doesn't record problem. So the input that you're getting from your experience, from your senses, doesn't get put into memory at all. it's literally in one ear and out the other. So that's why you're driving down the road. You're still you while it's happening. You'll still, if somebody asks you a question and says, hey, Jason, whatever, what's this and this, and you'll act like you'll answer like you still have function, but the experience isn't getting written into memory at all.
Right.
And so you don't remember it at all. And so this actually caused a lot of conflict, and it even still causes conflict because we still have some old patterns that we're trying to, even when we know what's wrong, we're still trying to fix it, right? Because it's been going on for so long. But like me and my wife would get in fights because, she would tell me something really important, right? And I would be having a cognitive event at that point, and it didn't get registered.
Oh, amen.
I didn't remember her saying that at all, right? And so, let's say it's an appointment. I'm just throwing an example out there. One of the many things that happen. I have this really important appointment. You need to do this and be ready and blah blah blah. And then, when the time comes, hey, are you ready? And I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And then she flips out like, this is so important to me. Why didn't you remember? And I literally didn't remember. And then she would say that I'm just trying to make an excuse because, when we didn't know what was wrong with me, I'm just trying to make an excuse because I forgot, or, I'm just being a jerk and didn't think about her. And so it creates this relationship problem.
Oh, yeah.
Because
it puts a lot of strain.
And same thing with work too. You tell a customer you're going to do something, it's in one ear and out the other. You don't do it because you don't even remember that you told them that. And then they go to your boss and say, hey, they told me I'd do this. And then you get fired, and you were a hard worker, and you're wondering what the hell happened. My boss just came to me saying some weird shit I don't even realize. And that didn't happen, and this customer must hate me or something. Your brain starts trying to figure out what happened, and it doesn't know what happened. And so you come up with some stupid excuse of why this happened, and it wasn't it at all.
Right.
It was literally that you just didn't remember, and the event did happen, and you thought this whole other thing happened. And that happened my whole life, and I just lost jobs. And I didn't even know I had cognitive issues until 2018, and I had them from the very beginning. It's reflected in my service record pre and post Desert Storm. I went from being a 4.0 overachiever. They wanted to pay me the max bonus and do anything they could to keep me in the military, to right after Desert Storm, just a year, because I got out a year after Desert Storm. Just in that year period, I went to like a 2.6 underachiever, lazy, doesn't respect authority, forgets stuff all the time, doesn't do his duties. We don't want him.
Right. And hey, somebody wrote down here, David wrote down, he writes everything down. I write some stuff down. I try to remember, but I've noticed for me, like I do a lot of games on my phone, so remembering games and stuff like that to keep my mind going.
Yeah, and that's good too.
But the other thing I do is every morning I just think to myself, it's just a different day, but I'm the same person. I go to work, I do everything I can. I think that's important, is keeping our minds being positive. I mean, we do need to be positive, because hell, we may be 70 years old and my kids are going to have to take care of me, or 80. And I mean, they may find a cure. I doubt it, hopeful. But I mean, you're right. Everybody has very similar things, but it reacts differently to the body. And that's what people need to remember, is when you're dealing with, Gulf War veterans, or you're dealing with Iraqi veterans. I mean, you look at the Iraqi guys after 2003, they're now able to, they got presumptives now, in which it's great, but I wish we would have been able to have them presumptives early. So hopefully they can figure something out for them guys. And And so I know the Afghanistan guys, they're going to have presumptives 2 coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean the military still does all this stuff, and that's really where we're at right now. Is they've been getting away with it all this time, and now there are so many of us that are affected, and there's so many of us pushing back now. There's so many of us filing claims now, which is new, from my understanding. And I mean, I wasn't filing a claim back in '92. I didn't do my first one until 2018, and I've been sick the whole time too. So, that's the one example of how they've been getting away with it all these years. And but now, with COVID and with, we've luckily had this research and we've had medical breakthroughs that they are actually starting to understand some of this stuff now. And, but the thing is, the damage is severe. It literally alters our life in major ways. Like, I honestly think I was on the path to, Bill Gates, Elon Musk type of future, maybe not that great, but somewhere close, in the multi-millions at least. And my whole cognitive stuff just sent my career from the engineering departments making the first cell phones that exist on the planet to I can't even get a call center tech support job for $12 an hour. Because my cognitive is so shot. And, it's, and that's the thing too, that as far as unemployability for a lot of us is, that we have a lot of physical stuff too. Like I'm having mobility issues and stuff now, and some other like really serious stuff showing up in my blood test. To kind of get back to that, I didn't answer that. I have high CRP, high ESR. They won't even look again after they saw it the first time, because it's probably actually worse. And the C-reactive protein and the ESR, those are indicative of inflammation and problems in the body that are serious. And they just, honestly, I just really feel they want us to die. It's like one of us dies and then a new person on the, waiting for benefits, line gets to go in. It's like one out the door to the grave and a new one gets to come in. Because the budget is a fixed line item. It doesn't exceed what is there. And so they're not going to be adding more people to it without more people leaving.
Right. And you're right on that. I mean, there is so much that they can budget for, I mean, I understand that. And, I tell everybody, I'd rather, instead of getting the money, hell, I'd rather them fix it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the main issue. And one of the reasons why they're covering this up so hard is that the damage is done. It's permanent. It's like, you scratch a CD hard enough, it's going to skip the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And it maybe will break in half at some point, and then you're done playing the CD. And that's where, that's where a lot of us are there. People in the 90s, they were sicker than us and they died right away. Right. And then, people in the 2000s, they died too. And now we're in the 2020s, I feel like I'm in this group of people that are going to go. I mean, I feel terminal. And that's the thing too, is, so many of us, are in this group. I think the numbers of the very severely affected were a lot lower, 5% or whatever, whatever the number is. And we're more in the 30 or 40% of us that are ill or in this arena where we're getting old, we're getting in our 50s and 60s and our bodies are just breaking down from that early damage. Our bodies have been struggling all this time.
Yeah.
And we've been winging it, and we've not been getting the care that we need. A lot of us, I mean, some of us have, and those people might be doing better than us. And that might've sent some people into the grave because of all the over medications. Right. They wanted to give me a bunch of shit. I just refused. And then they tried to use that. Like, why are you refusing what we're telling you to do? And I'm all, you show me that, first off, you know what I have, because you don't. And second off, that this medicine's actually going to treat the condition that I have, because they don't look deep into anything. They just, it's like they guess. And I've even heard of some people like having joint issues, joint pain issues, and the joint looks fine, but they're replacing joints.
Oh,
And I'm just
wow.
thinking, wow, I'm thinking, that's what the hell?
Yeah.
Are they just trying to get practice for some of these students in some of these situations? Or are they just trying to get the vets to, kick the bucket sooner? I don't know. I really feel like it's just this whole, it's a fixed budget, and it's evidenced by, 2 weeks ago or so, there was a Congress panel discussion about, that Jon Stewart attended, the round table, I think it was called, where the Veterans Committee in Congress was discussing bills and how to help us, and I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
So Jon Stewart was on, and everybody should really watch that, and people who have family and friends that care about them should get their family and friends to watch it, because it really highlights, what I'm saying here about the budget. And Jon Stewart was like, and before I go into Jon Stewart, the title of this thing is called "The True Costs of War," or something like that, on our troops, something like that. I forgot the exact title, but it's along those lines. So I'm thinking, oh my God, they're actually going to start admitting this stuff. And it starts off like that, like, yes, we have all these toxic exposures and blah, 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 and we want to help and blah, blah, blah. So then Jon Stewart's like jumping in, and he's all, what I would like to hear is that we take care of all these vets and all the issues they have, and money and all that stuff isn't an issue. We just get it done, because that's what we are supposed to do, what we promised them. And it's a poor reflection of our society, of all this, that we don't take care of the people that help fight for our freedoms. And he's all, this shouldn't even be a discussion. The discussion shouldn't be like, what can we cut out here? What can we cut out there? How can, what can we do to get the other side to agree to it? That shouldn't even be the talk at all. The talk should be, how fast can we do this? And, when can we start?
Right.
And basically is what he's saying, right? And you could just see the pushback, like, well, I don't know, that's gonna be really tough. And so they're like talking about, okay, we really got to accept responsibility for doing this. But then we find out that everything that they were talking about doing is only for post 9/11 vets.
Yeah.
So that doesn't include us, guys.
Right. That. Oh, Lordy.
And so it's only and the reason why they're making that cutoff is because it's, they know we're going to kick the bucket soon, and they don't want to spend the money. They haven't been spending the money on us, and they like it that way. And they know they have to put a big pile of money towards this now, because everybody's starting to freak out about it. And so, we're going to do it for the post 9/11 guys, and anybody before then, oh well.
Yeah, and see, that's the one thing about it, is almost everything you see is post 9/11, post 9/11. And like Amelia put down here, our troops who even went to like Bosnia or Vietnam vets. I mean, look how long it took them for the Vietnam. I mean, that was just sad.
And that's what it is enough of them kick the bucket that their bill isn't that big.
Right. And so
that's the whole process. Every single tactic, every single thing that you see done in the VA has that goal.
Right. Right.
And I'll show you another example of that. So I'm supposed to be on this pilot program, right, of this team of VA doctors that are really going to listen to what I'm saying and take my health concerns seriously. And I go into the first meeting. We talked a little bit about that. He's downplaying my brain things right away. He's misbehaving when the psychologist leaves and starts talking more tough to me, right? And then he's like, literally, okay, see you in 3 months. And he didn't even hear the rest. He just asked if if somebody didn't hear the last time I talked about what happened, he just said, "What's the most serious thing that you're worried about right now?" I said, "My brain." And so he, and there's a good reason for that, because my dysautonomia, which is my brainstem not controlling my automatic functions, which is
Right.
why I have sleep problems, which is why I have gastro problems, which is why I have venous insufficiency problems, all the medically unexplained venous insufficiency problems, and all this other stuff, tachycardia. So and also my cognitive stuff is going downhill fast. Like I just have events all day long where I'm missing stuff. I literally, if I want to learn something new, if I'm reading it or watching it or listening to it, I have to do it twice automatically. I can't just do it once,
Yeah, you
because
have to do it twice.
if I do it once, I know I'm going to miss something in it. And so I read it the second time. And when I read it the second time, I find out, oh, yeah, I missed this and I missed this and missed this. And then I go, do I need to do it a third time?
Yeah.
So that's how it is. And I'm even forget, like, the long-term memory has been intact, but that's even starting to go. So I'm like, yeah, and also my intermittent oxygen, the brainstem is the most oxygen needing part of your body, and it's also the most susceptible to damage from being deprived from oxygen. Well, I have intermittent oxygen levels below 90, and I'm fighting the VA on that, and they won't give me oxygen because it doesn't last longer than 5 minutes. That's their standard. So
Really? That's the standard?
yeah, you have to like be impaired for, like, because normally when you get COPD or emphysema or all these other
Yeah.
conditions that they know about, you're permanently impaired. So they've written in, it's basically, they say oxygen's like a drug, and like they
Right.
got to, and you can't get oxygen. I can't get oxygen on my own, or I'd do it.
Oh wow, that's
Um,
crazy.
and oxygen isn't a drug, and I guess too much oxygen can cause problems. I do understand that, yes. But anyway, I'm worried like while I'm sleeping or even while I'm awake, when I'm experiencing low oxygen, this venous insufficiency, maybe not enough oxygen gets to my brain, and I have further brainstem damage. And one of these days, I'm going to wake up a vegetable and not even know what's going on around me,
Right.
because that's kind of what it feels like is it's happening. So
yeah, I know that with all of us, we all need to me, we all need to be on the same page. That's why we have all these Go For sites and everything. And I think we are now. I think we're all coming together. We're starting to get our voices heard. And I'm hoping within 6 months, more and more vets are going to start getting involved in this.
yeah, and we do have an idea on that. And remind me, I want to bounce back to that, but and this is something too. I go off on all these tangents as part of my cognitive stuff. Is I just go off on all these. But what I was saying is evidence. I have this team that is a pilot that's supposed to listen to me and take me seriously and have more frequent appointments. And the very first appointment I go in, he goes, "Okay, see you in 3 months," and he only heard the brain thing. He
Wow.
didn't hear about my liver. He didn't hear about my heart issues that I'm worried about. He didn't hear about my kidney things and my skin things that are going on. He didn't hear about the sore in my mouth yet. Or no, he looked at that really quick and called it cancer. And that's the other thing too, is like he immediately is saying, "Oh, it might be cancer." And this is the guy that thinks I'm a hypochondriac. So, it's just like the VA care is just, I really feel like, one, most of the clinicians of the VA are either rejects from civil or private care that would be sued for malpractice every day they practice, or they just can't make it there, or they're specifically just hired by the VA to just not take care of us. It just really seems that way to me, because that's been my whole experience. And even when I'm on this pilot team, supposed to be getting this new care, this new standard for how they treat us. I'm thinking, I hope this isn't the new standard, because this is even almost worse than it was before, because you're just like almost intentionally trying to piss me off now. And by saying 3 months, right? And then so I sent him my healthy vet email too after that, and I said, well, I'm worried about this and this and this, and he went off and replied with an email and just explained it all off, like, well, it's not that serious, and this and this and this. And I didn't get to go into too much detail. I didn't want to go into too much detail. I just wanted to give them summaries, because that's the thing too, is it's like a catch-22. We have so much information and so much time and so much things that we need to talk about. And then they don't have the time to listen to us or deal with it.
Yeah.
And so it's just a constant battle of, I need help. And they're like, we don't want to help you. We don't want to help you. And if it's something they see they can fix really quick and you go away and you don't come back, they'll do that. Or maybe you have, some follow-up PT, or, some follow-up outpatient for a little while. They'll do that kind of stuff day and night. But if it's this more serious stuff, where we need multiple specialists all the time and things are getting worse and worse and worse, we go into the void basket.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like Lon's on here. He said that he's almost at the point of kind of, giving up on filing and stuff. And I know Lon, because he was on the program, he was about to go into the pilot program for the Gulf War illness. Lon, did you complete that? He's on here. I want him to answer. Like, I think, yeah.
Well, and see, that's the thing too, this pilot program. So I'm being told it's something new, right? And now I'm hearing that there's another one. And so in that Capitol Forum thing with the congressman, with Jon Stewart, and he pretty much slammed them about they spend more money on Viagra than they do with us, which was really cool. And that made headlines, actually. But there's another meeting with the RAC, which is the Research Advisory Committee, that just happened a few days ago. And I was on there, and some other people were on there too. And, there are a lot of us that are really fed up. And a lot of us were voicing that in the chat. And even the advisory committee just like kept telling us, and this is kind of what happens, is things just get compartmentalized, is they told us, this isn't the forum for, expressing these things. And we're like, we're expressing real life problems that we're having with the VA. Well, like, what good is this research if they don't implement it?
Right.
If they don't implement anything that you guys are doing or use any of that information, clinicians don't even know what Gulf War illness is. How is this helping anybody? It's not helping any of us. And it's been 30 years, and we're just saying stuff like that, and in all its various ways. And they didn't even want to hear it. And so this Congress thing that Jon Stewart was on, they mentioned a pilot program that the VA is conducting for us Gulf War vets. And I just think, are they talking about me? And maybe they're talking about this other guy, or it's maybe all just BS. They're just saying it's a pilot program. And it's just really, to me, it's just more of the same. It's just they're just putting more people on this team. Did he have a team of people?
Well,
a team of doctors?
Well, he says at the end of the 3 months, they told me they would send recommendations to his primary care. And 1 month later, he ain't heard a thing. I'm going to bring Lon on and tell me about the pilot program, because I wanted him to come back on. Yeah, I want him to come on.
That's the thing too, is so before this pilot program thing happened, I don't know if I talked to you about this in the last thing, but I've called the president hotline a few times.
Oh yeah, you talked about that.
And so my last call to them was supposed to be an escalation to the president's desk. I said, I'm tired of you guys contacting the VA and telling them get things happening, because that isn't working. And I want to talk to I need this to go to the president's desk. And it's not just me that's having this problem. I'm having these problems for sure, but there's thousands of us that are, and I see it in all the forums, and we all need help. I'm not the only one. We need to talk to the president. So they even sent me an email with my case number and everything and said it's been sent to the president's desk. You'll hear something in 14 days. It's been 3 months now, and I haven't heard anything yet.
Yeah, that see, and that's what burns my ass. But see, I'm going to be curious after you're done with your pilot program. And this would be a recommendation that I would do if they put me on that pilot program. Download some of the stuff that Denise Nichols has and take it in with you and show them. Have you thought about doing that?
Well, so I haven't done that specifically in that way, but I do use a lot of the information from Denise and the groups to speak to any of these people because, they and I'm sure to inform them of that because I think it does help to give pressure to them that it's not just me that's having this issue, right?
Right.
And I'm also bringing it to their attention too that we all suffer. We're all on Facebook. We're all talking about having the same problems. And what that does is put pressure because what they have done, the way they've done it in the past, when we haven't all been connected and we don't know what's going on with each other, is they just treat us as these individual symptoms. And they actually refer to symptoms as complaints. What are our complaints?
No, you're right.
That's what our symptoms are.
That's very true. If when I used to walk in, they used to say, so what is your complaint? I said, about what? Well, what's your symptoms? Well, that's different. A symptom and complaint are two different freaking things.
And the language is important because behind the scenes, when they're not talking to us, these are complaints to them. They're trying to figure out how to solve all our complaints. And, there are a lot of actual, serious emotional complaint type things going on, like I got into at one point, because a lot of us have brain damage and it affects our emotion centers and it affects our reactions. And some of us are in a partial dementia type state, especially. And that's the other thing too, is not only does your brain not record things, is typically the emotion centers are hit and we can have really short fuses.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of us seem to have a really short fuse for injustice. And I think the reason why we have a short fuse for injustice is because we've been victims of it for so long.
Yeah.
Well, and we just can't tolerate it because we have been victims of injustice for 32 years now.
Well, why don't we do this? After you're done with your 3 months, I want you to come back on again. Would you be willing to do that and talk about at the very end? Okay.
Yeah, you bet. And there's more stuff to talk about too that we didn't even get into. There's because of all these tangents about what's going on with this primary care team and what's happened over the past few days. We covered some of it, but yeah, I guess we could just wrap it all up though at the end, and I could talk about the whole experience.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up today, and then after you're done, just send me an email and say, or text and say, "Hey, Kevin, I'm done with it. I want to talk." But don't give up. Go in there.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think you will.
And that's the other thing. That's the other thing is so the next step for me with that is to see this quote unquote specialist, and we'll see how that goes. But I don't know what's after that. I mean, I wasn't even given a particular time frame. I don't think so. I don't know if
it's usually about a 3-month program and everything. So,
well, we'll see what happens with that. But the one thing I want to say is I've been co-hosting Denise Nichols' Warrior Connection radio show.
Yes.
And so I don't know if you've heard that recently, but we came up with an idea about having a media blitz. And, they've done this before. They actually did that in the early 90s with Kamasaya Kid. Way back in the beginning, if any of you remember about any of that. But what we're thinking here is a new media blitz, because there is a lot of pressure on these issues for us right now. We could probably even get Jon Stewart involved. But what I want to do is not just like start doing it now all in an unorganized way. I want us to all get together on this and come up with a really good campaign that's going to work. We need to, we can't just do things off the cuff anymore. We have to have
People.
We're in an ideal situation right now where there is a lot of pressure that we can put on this, and we have new tools that we've never had before with social media and getting the word out there without relying on the media itself, because for the media, they're all complicit in all these cover-ups of government corruption as well. They're on the payroll, basically. So in order to get media to even care about it, they're going to have the social media pressure.
Right.
So we have all these tools with social media that we could really get this out there and have a media blitz about what is happening to us, what the very fight that's going on right now where the VA is like refusing to take care of us because of money. That's basically what it boils down to. And so we really need to media blitz this. And Denise came up with a really great idea about that I think it's very impactful myself. I found self-empowerment from it is by us sharing our stories. And so if we share how it's impacted us and what we go through to the media and to the leaders, it's going to be powerful, because they don't just want to hear that we're sick and, we aren't getting taken care of. They've heard that before and nothing's happening.
Right.
And a lot of people don't even think it's real. They think that we're taken care of very well. So what we need to do is we need to say, no, no, we're not. And here is my experience. This is what I have had to go through because I am not getting cared for.
Right.
And that kind of media blitz, I think, would be very powerful. And I'm talking hitting all the decision makers on that Congress board that just basically told Jon Stewart and the rest of us to screw off if we're pre 9/11. And even the post 9/11, it's still iffy for a lot of things too. They're talking about cutting things out. So we're going to send it to them. We're going to send it to the media, in our local media, each of us, and not just us vets. Each one of us vets should do our own story, like a sum up of what we've gone through over the past 30 years for us in Desert Storm, and then however many years for whoever else.
Right. That's a good idea.
And give them that story, all of us, and all hit our, because if we all hit our local media, they all kind of talk together, talk to each other. So, and they're all conglomerated. So when they all start getting hit from all over the nation, then they're going to go, oh God, this is too big. We can't cover this up. Right. But it's not only us too. We need to get our friends, those of us that still have any of those left, and our family, and the same thing. We need to get them not explaining the same thing we did. We need to have them explain their experience of what they've had to
like
go
caretakers.
Through. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Because a lot of us have these cognitive issues, and it really affects our relationships. And that's one of the reasons why so many of us end up being homeless or suiciding, is because we have actual dementia-like issues going on, and nobody wants to deal with that.
Well, make sure.
And love is very tested.
Oh, yeah.
When love is put under those kind of pressures.
Right. Well, you know what? You and Denise have my cell phone. Y'all give me a call and we'll sit down and talk about it. Let's get some stuff going.
And all of us need to do it. We need to have a public forum, and we need to put a plan out on the table, a framework, and say, and that's kind of the framework right there that's already being put on the table right there. And we need to build on that framework, all of us, and we need to make it a perfect building that can't be toppled.
Right. I agree 100%.
It's going to be our fortress that helps everybody.
Yeah. And our children. Have our children, Teresa, yes. Our children need to be involved in this too. And
Yeah.
it's
And
fantastic.
I think it's going to be really powerful, and I think it's really going to work. It's the perfect time for it. And with the right plan, along those lines, and we make it better, we make it foolproof, we make it bulletproof, and we just ram it down their throats where they can't say no.
Right. Yeah, it sounds good.
So,
well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up, and me and you will keep in contact. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate you. And we're going to have a part 3 to this.
Sounds good, man.
All right. Well, you have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye.
Bye. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for listening. And he's right. We all do need to get together, work as a team, and get this stuff going. But, just remember, we all have family members that love us. And there are some vets out there that are struggling. I understand that completely. And if any vet needs to get help, have them contact me. If any veteran or their spouses or anybody wants to come on here, tell their story, please have them contact me. If they want to call me, they want to send me a PM, email me, any way that they want to do this, I have no problem whatsoever listening to their story or helping them out. If you know a veteran that's in trouble, please let me know. They don't have to come on the show. We'll help them out. If anybody's having problems with their getting, any of their stuff filed, we'll help them find a VSO officer or DAV. But I want to thank each and every one of y'all for listening this evening. And I'm your host, Kevin Simon, and thank you very much.